Happy Saturday, Wayne Sutton here to secondadam.com. I want to tell you a quick story about an experience when I was young. I was actually in 8th grade. I was in 8th grade. It was a revival service. And this message really is talking about being in the right place, even if your mind's not there. Being there and you know the power of God, the power of bringing someone into the atmosphere of God. This is why church is still important, guys. This is why bringing people to church is still important. So I'm in 8th grade, and my cousin was like, "Hey, you want to go to church now? We're having a revival service." Well, here it is, a school night, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure." That means I get to hang out with my buddy Robbie, get to hang out with my buddy Shane, and Kenny's going. And for those of you, if you're watching this, I know you'll remember this. And so, but for me, it wasn't about getting closer to God. It wasn't about anything but hanging out with them. So we jump in my cousin Robbie's. He had a Buick Regal, and so we drive over to the church, and we jump out, and we're sitting in the pew, and we're kind of just talking real quiet, because church is going on, and the pastor, the preacher, the evangelist, whoever it was, he's preaching up a storm, you know, and but we're not there for that. We're there to kind of hang out. Now, I believe Robbie was there for the preaching. We were there to hang out. But what happened was the Spirit of God showed up. What happened was the atmosphere of heaven came down. And the preacher gave a message. And here came 4 boys walking up to the front. 4 boys walking up to the front to the altar. And we began to pray. And the power of the Holy Spirit came. See, it's one thing to come into a church service and wanting to just talk and hang out. But it's another thing when the Spirit of the living God shows up. The Holy Spirit began to convict, the Holy Spirit began to pull, and we're at the altar and we're praying and we're crying, and just the Spirit of the Lord comes. And what's really interesting, I'll talk about the supernatural for a moment. At the end of near the end of the prayer service and so forth, or end of the altar time, and let me say this, pastors, if you do not have altar time at your church, you need to start. So let me say this very plain, because I know some pastors are watching this. If you don't have time for people to come to the front and to receive a touch from the Lord, yes, they can receive it in their seat, but if you don't make a special time and you don't honor that time in your church, then it's a far cry from calling yourself a church. You can call yourself what you want to. And so, if you disagree with me, that's okay. We don't have to agree. I'm just speaking my heart, because I know sitting in the pew in this little church on this Tuesday night or whatever it was one thing, but I moved to the front and gave honor and presence to that time with the Lord is when the Spirit of the Lord fell. So take that for what it's worth. So me and Robbie and Shane and Kenny were all like huddled around, arms around each other, and we went from joking to cutting up to praying and crying. And tears were in my eyes, and I opened my eyes. And I believe Robbie was praying at that time, and of course the pastor's praying. In Pentecostal church, everybody's praying. And so I opened my eyes, and there's a blue cloud, a blue fog. I don't know how I even said, but it was a bright blue fog right here. And really thinking back to the time, it was just like a portal of His presence, just a portal of the presence of the Holy Spirit. I've seen the Shekinah glory, I've seen the glory cloud physically, but this was blue and it was glowing, and in fact, it was so bright and so amazing, I closed my eyes for just a moment, you know, kind of like, oh, what was that? And I opened my eyes again, and there it is. And you know what what was amazing? 3 of the 4 of us saw it that evening. 3 of the 4 of us saw it, and we didn't say, "Hey, did you see that?" In fact, later on, my cousin Robbie said, "Did you see what I saw?" And I said, "Was it blue fog?" And we saw the same thing, even though 3 of the 4 of us did. Why does that matter? Because the supernatural God is still the God of your heart. He's still the God of everything. We need to make time. We need to make time to get into the presence of the Lord. Let me tell you, I heard a revival showing up at this church. Then go. I heard this is happening there. Then go. And yes, I've heard the whole thing that, well, God can meet you where He's at, where you're at. You don't have to go to a place. Listen, that is not biblical. I know, first of all, He can. Let me rephrase that. Of course He can. He's always with us. Never leaves us. But it's also biblical that they marked the place. This is what we call Bethel. This will be called, they marked the places with stones. They made, this is where this happened. I believe there's open portals today. I also know that when people went, they went where Jesus was and they were healed, and He healed all that were there. There is a time when you go where the Spirit is moving. Because here's why. You're saying, "Lord, I believe that these people are also in faith. These people are honoring in you, and there's a supernatural touch of that corporate prayer, corporate worship, corporate just seeking the hand of the living God. So, kind of went off there on a little bit, but I wanted to share this story with you because I'm telling you, God that was there when I was a 12-year-old kid is still the God here in my 40s, and the same supernatural power. What does He have for you? What does He have for you, and how are you going to get into that presence? I mentioned a few days ago, if you're out of church, get back in church. Find a church. Find somewhere you can spend time with the Lord. And for my pastors, if you're not having time for prayer, for people to come up and be prayed for at the altar, either by a prayer team or by you, or just having to say, look, the altar's open, come and pray, then I urge you, I commend you, let the people see what a true church service is. And if Wayne, you don't know how big our church is, we can't handle that, then that's another issue for you to talk about. But you need to make time. You need to make time for people to come and receive a touch from the Lord. They need to know what it is to go down, to bow their knee, and to pray and to receive from the Lord. So, this is Wayne Sutton, thesecondadam.com, thesecondadam.com. For our partners, be sure to look. Just a few more days. We're coming into February. We're going to have a new teaching in our Partners Only Vault. What we do with that is we have a vault. We have an online web page. When I say vault, an online web page just for our partners, where we're putting our teachings and new updates and so forth. Because your partnership helps take this message into all parts of the world. So if you haven't joined us yet, there's 3 levels, and all 3 include personal prophetic counseling with me. So go to partnerwithwayne.com. Partnerwithwayne.com. For our partners, thank you for everything you're doing. If you're watching this, hit the share button. Ask God, show me your glory. And He'll do it. God bless.